What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. This is episode 49 of the Cleveland Pulse podcast. This is a podcast episode, and today we're essentially just going to be having a roundabout house talk about what's going on. It's kind of a slow news cycle. It may not seem like it. Obviously, with the Cavs getting the third pick last week, the Indians playing pretty good ball up until now. But obviously, we do talk a lot about the Browns. So they're currently in a dead period and we're waiting for training camp. But we figured that we just, see what we could come up with and, get a couple points out there. So, Jeff, how you doing, my guy?
Good. I'm excited for this long one. We haven't done a podcast episode in about a month. We've been focusing on diversifying the channel a little bit, making some shorter videos. But I feel like people kind of like the long videos. They like maybe hearing us talk about different subjects, for 30 or 40 minutes. So this one should be interesting today. Really no set itinerary on purpose in the sense that we're just going to bounce ideas off each other. Hopefully it's interactive.
Yeah, and obviously you and I have had a couple conversations these past couple days that I'm sure we could absolutely get into. I'm still kind of like stoked on the whole fact that we got the third pick in the draft for the Cavs. In terms of the Indians, I don't know that there's a lot to talk about other than they're still playing really competitive ball, which is great to see. They're second in the AL Central, so they're 2 games back, I believe. Got a game tonight, and we'll see how that goes for them. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've had some stuff that we've talked about in the past here. I don't know if you want to hit it off with that to start or what your thoughts are.
Yeah, for sure. But before we start, just make sure, you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below because we're going to be talking about stuff that we're going to make videos on, maybe potentially individual videos in the future. So we really want to hear your thoughts down below. Make sure you leave us a like as well. And most importantly, that subscribe. So Cavs getting the third overall pick. I think we did talk about this in the reaction a little bit. I think it's interesting because of where we could really go from it, how many potential moves we do have. And from the feedback of that video and on Twitter, at least, a good culmination. I feel like a lot of people like Kuminga. I think that's how you say his name, which is another guy who played in the G League last year. And a lot of people are saying, oh, we might want to just swap with the Raptors or some trade along those lines. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I feel good about this pick, though. I think we can both agree that we feel good about the third overall pick.
I think sitting at 3, you're sitting in a pretty great spot. Obviously, the kicker there is what happens at 2. I think we all know that Cade Cunningham is going 1, which leaves Mobley, who is Jeff's guy, and Green, who is my guy right now, on the board for the Rockets. And I kind of after we got that pick, I looked into who's on the Rockets roster for the most part. And for me, it's pretty clear that they're probably going to go with like a big man because they got John Wall, unless they, cut him or ship him or whatever. And they got Kevin Porter Jr. I think they got their point guards and shooting guards for the future. Obviously, we know a lot about Kevin Porter Jr. Over here with the Cavs, unfortunately. But I think we sit in a pretty nice spot where it's kind of you pick who's there after 2 between Mobley and Green. However, I think the problem that a lot of Cavs fans have with that is obviously the whole Colin Sexton thing with, are we going to retain him? Are we going to trade him out? Are we going to sign him to a contract? And a lot depends on what happens with Sexton, I think, with that draft pick, or maybe even you wait until after that draft pick to maybe ship him or kind of figure out what's going on there. So I think 3 is a great spot. I think, moving up, obviously, from where we thought we'd be 5 again is great. And having that kind of value pick is amazing.
I think here's another thing I think we can both agree on. I think that this is probably Kobe Altman's last go around.
Yeah.
I think if they're just as bad next year, which is completely possible.
Oh, yeah.
I think that he's probably done. I don't know, unless whoever he drafts this year is like rookie of the year or something.
Right.
I don't think that he really has he doesn't have a lot of chances left, at least for me. I think he should have been. I don't think he should be making this pick really. But at the end of the day, he's going to be in there. They advertise him. Sexton, I think it's interesting. The 1 year difference between last year around the draft and this year is massive because last year when our Isaac Okoro reaction video, we did a review of this, a couple weeks ago or a month ago. Everybody loved Sexton. I feel like everybody was, mostly people were talking bad on me because I thought he was a bum last year. I kind of thought he was a bum when we drafted him. And now this year, I feel like it's a completely mixed bag just over one season. And if you look at his numbers, you can't dispute facts. I mean, it was the best year for him statistically.
Yeah.
And now compared from last year at this time to this year at this time, I feel like you either hate him or you love him. I feel like last year hating him was like, nobody was doing that. I feel like people, I was one of the few people, as far as most people in the Cleveland media scene that was really against them. Now he has, the best season statistically, and I feel like it's a 50-50 coin toss now. What do you think has really changed as far as, is it just now we're going to probably draft another guard, so we need somebody gone?
Yeah, I mean, it's team composition at this point for me. I mean, in terms of why last year I think a lot of people were still willing to give him a chance was because, we didn't get to see a lot of Garland because it was COVID season, and he was in and out. He was still in and out this year, but you get a full year of those two playing together and kind of seeing what they can do. And I just don't think that it works out with how those two play the game. I think that Sexton needs the ball in his hand, or the way Sexton plays, he has the ball in his hands way too much. And the way that Garland needs to play, he needs to have the ball in his hand more in terms of at the start of a possession and kind of just getting through the offense. And so I think everyone was trying to give, and I think a lot of people were really high. I think I was definitely really high on the potential of this team last year. Thinking if we're all healthy,
Me too.
And this was before the Kevin Porter Jr. trade. So to be fair, we had Garland, Sexton, KPJ, Okoro, Kevin Love, Larry Nance, and Drummond. That's 7 players who you're thinking, wow, that's on paper, realistically, that's a top 5 pick, a top 8 pick, another top 5 pick, a previous All-Star player, Andre Drummond, who was a leader in rebounds at a point in time, a really young and up and coming player who we saw with Kevin Porter Jr. was a dude who could get buckets when he wanted to. And
should have been an 8th seed roster. It really should have been.
And I think that's what realistically me and you had it, or at least I had it picked out to be last year, was a team that could definitely be the 8th seed. And so a lot of things just kind of went awry last year. We trade Kevin Porter Jr. away because we make a trade with Andre Drummond. I should rephrase that. We trade away. No, we don't trade away Andre Drummond. Who did we trade away? We were involved in the trade for Harden to the Nets. We get Jared Allen, Prince, and things start to kind of get screwed up there because they give Prince KPJ's locker. KPJ throws food in the locker room. He gets traded. But then we go see him in the G League, and with the Rockets, he starts lighting it up. Obviously a bad move, which could have been a bright side on Kobe Altman had they retained him.
Absolutely.
But now you just look back on it and it's a sore subject. Kevin Love, who just continues to, Jeff made a whole video, an amazing video about it, where he's still playing on the worst, and playing's a relative word, on one of the worst contracts in the league that we've seen. You guys really should go watch that video because it's amazing and it details everything of why you get a lot of the Kevin Love slander over here on our channel. So, but I think there were just really high expectations, and sure, Colin Sexton improved, but improving your numbers is like kind of being like, hey, Russell Westbrook has really great numbers. Does he really help his team out though, in terms of getting wins and such? And so, I don't know. I think people have gotten enough time to see what Colin Sexton is all about. And I think in terms of wanting to see the team do well, they know that there needs to be a change. And I think Sexton is part of that. So
I think the Sexton situation could be very similar, to maybe something that we're going to talk about, a little bit later down the road in this episode.
I knew you were gonna do that. I knew it was coming too.
You need to know me, because here's the thing. Is it totally comparable? I'm not going to say that they're the same situation, and I don't like some people are just complete contrarians. Some people just, especially in sports.
Yeah.
people just hate, people just hate LeBron to hate LeBron just because everybody likes LeBron, stuff like that. And it's not like, okay, LeBron's, top 2 player in the NBA ever, maybe top 3 if you want to get super critical. But it's like you could hate a guy even if he's one of the best in the game. But it's like I'm not sitting here just finding flaws about people and then being like, oh, everybody like Colin Sexton. I think Colin Sexton's bad. Yeah. It's more like I see the general fan base. I see the reasons they like somebody and I think, okay, those are stupid reasons. And then I give my opinion the other way. For most people, if the majority of people are giving me bad reasons and then someone comes along and gives me a good reason, okay, I'm going to actually look into that. I'm not going to be like, oh, that's just stupid. But when it comes to the mass media, as far as decision makings, what the general manager should do, most people are either, 4 engagements, 4 clicks. We've talked about this. We talked about this about a tweet, yesterday that you sent to me, but it's like, I wasn't here to hate Colin Sexton. It's not like a Cleveland organization drafts a guy and I'm like, oh, I hope he sucks. Right. I feel like that's how a lot of people think, the people commenting underneath our videos saying, oh, he leads the team in this, he leads the team points per game. Like, okay, that's fine. If you want to defend the guy, that's what we're all here for. We're all here for contrasting takes and talking about the teams that we root for. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's no harm, no foul. At least I think. People get a little bit heated about it, but at the end of the day, I think the general consensus has weirdly shifted to getting rid of Colin Sexton, which I would not have thought was going to be, the case a year ago.
Yeah, I think honestly, I've turned my opinion around from last year. I was one of the guys who wanted to give him another chance. But obviously, like I've just been telling you since we got that pick, or since like the draft was, the lottery was a thing that last week, I was like, we need someone who can just straight up shoot. And I feel like we don't have anyone who does that. Like, sure, like Colin Sexton gets buckets, but he doesn't shoot the 3-point ball like very well. Neither does Darius Garland, and no one else on our team. Kevin Love, when he chooses to play, can sometimes shoot the 3, but like I want someone like Kevin Porter Jr. who goes out there and like has like a swagger about him where he just pulls up from 3, like a Steph Curry who just like pulls up from 3 consistently and also makes those 3s. Like I feel like a lot of our guys take 3s and there's no confidence in like whether or not that shot's going down or not.
We just don't have anybody on the roster that could create their own shot like from the perimeter at all. Colin Sexton's a hard dribble and drive type of player. I feel like Garland is more looking to get, interested in the pass. Okoro has no offense. I feel like Okoro was a big miss. I don't want to rag on the guy because I do like drafting defense-minded players, but there's just not enough of them in the league, really. And most of the time they're defensive second. I mean, you have Rudy Gobert, but it's like he still is good on the offensive side of the ball. You usually don't draft people who are good defensively.
But he's an actual defensive player of the year. Like, the gap between him and Okoro right now is way too significant.
And the position's just different. But it's like, people hear me say, okay, why do you want Altman gone already? Obviously, there's a big case to make, but it's like, even if Altman hits this year, I don't think he should keep his job. And that's not me being toxic. It's just like, if you look at 3, and I'm not saying that I'm going to go in there and I'm not, we don't have credentials to be general managers. I think everybody understands that, Kobe Altman is experienced and can't make these decisions. So do I feel, I don't have any resentment toward the guy, but if you're not good at your job at that level of doing a job like that, then you're not going to be around for very long. You see it with head coaches. That's what I don't understand. I don't understand why GMs are like this sacred entity in sports. And then coaches are just like, well, we could just fire him like John Beilein. Kobe Altman signs John Beilein, then we just get rid of him halfway through the year. Like that's John Beilein's fault, which it might have been, and that's a whole nother situation because is Bickerstaff your guy? I don't know. Good luck figuring that out. I don't know why we couldn't have grabbed Rick Carlisle. I don't know. Nobody wants to come coach for us though. I wouldn't want to come coach for the Cavs, but here's my problem with Altman at 3. So last year you get unlucky. Was Okoro best available? You might have an argument that Okoro was best available. In 5 years, he probably won't be the best available at that spot. You can't draft best available in NBA like you can in NFL, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. But this year, so we have the 3rd pick this year. So you're either going to draft the 4th guard in the 1st round in the last 4 years, plus KPJ, obviously. You
Yeah.
have Sexton, Garland, KPJ, and Okoro the
Is
last 4
Okoro not a
years.
3?
He's a shooting guard. Google says he's a shooting guard technically. I think he's a 3 too, but Google says he's a shooting guard. He ain't big enough really to be
You're
a
right. He's
small.
not very big.
He's 6'5". I mean, I don't know. Between him and Osman, it's a mess. But it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you have just Sexton, Garland, Okoro, and then if you draft a guard this year. So that's just bad. That's just bad management right there. Or say the Rockets want to guard it too, and then you draft Mobley, who's my guy. But at the end of the day, I'm realizing that's not a genius pick for us, because either way you slice that, then what do we do with Jared Allen? Do we move on from Jared Allen? Or do we put Jared Allen at 4 and play Mobley at 5 and just buy out Kevin Love and just tell him,
see you later.
Good luck. And then you have it's just like, either way we go here. I feel like the Kuminga move probably makes the most sense because you could probably keep the same composition of the team. But then it's like, if they suck this year, then you just kept the same sucky composition of the team without making anything different. We just added a decent power forward.
Yeah. And you really need like a star small forward. And I think that's been like one of the positions that's straight up been lacking in a lot of these drafts. It's like you get the typical guards, and then you get like a Zion Williamson who, plays a great power forward center position and is a franchise changer, but there hasn't been a lot of small forwards in these past couple of drafts who you really look at and you're like, yeah, that's a guy that could change your franchise, or later on after the pick's been made that you're like, man, that's a game changer right there. So it's kind of unfortunate, being in the position you're in, but that's why trading Colin Sexton would make a lot of sense for you to go out and grab another guard. And I think the problem with that is, like, a lot of people, you brought up Jared Allen, a lot of people seem to think that Jared Allen is the better of the two, and that's who the team should build around in a sense. Obviously, if you make the pick at 3, that's who you're technically going to build your team around, because that's the highest pick you've had in the past 4 years and everything. But yeah, I mean, Kobe Altman doesn't have, like, the fact that you've made is that Kobe Altman has 0 track record of anything good happening so far. Like, what's
besides
the best?
Jared Allen, really? Jared Allen, and if you squander him, I mean, if you overpay him, that looks bad. If you trade him, like, I don't know. I honestly do feel bad for Kobe Altman because he really has minimal options.
Yeah, I think he needs to, he might as well just go all out and kind of just leave it all out there and be like, all right, well, if I succeed here, I succeed. If I don't, I probably have it coming that I should probably be fired, is what I would be thinking if I'm him right now. But yeah, I mean, the Cavs they're in an interesting spot, but they're also, in what I've heard and what I've thought, it happens every year that you're a losing team is like a make or break year where you have to show improvement, mainly this year, because like you said, Bickerstaff, is he your guy? Hasn't had any winning seasons yet. Altman hasn't had a track record of doing anything good with 2 head coaches now. So yeah, we're really in a situation here where I think the Cavs are, in a very do or die situation. And I hope for the better they figure it out, but got to wait until the end of July to figure out whether or not what's going to be happening in the future with a lot of players on this team. I think, Sexton, Allen, and Love are all players to question, are they going to be on this roster next year, and who's going to be that number 3 pick? What are the trade potentials? That's something I've been trying to look into, but a lot of people just haven't made those kind of posts for the Cavs yet, but hopefully in the future that'll be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only good part about the Cavs is that hopefully if you're better than a lottery team, then that's a win of a year. But it's also like, oh, if you're average and then you don't get anyone great in the draft, then it's like you would have rather been a lottery team. But I think we're about exhausted that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I'm wondering, should we talk about the tweet? Let's talk about the tweet.
You want to talk about the tweet?
Let me read it. I'll throw it up on the screen right here.
It.
This is from Anthony Lima on Twitter, who is Cleveland 92.3, the fan host. Here we go. Here's what it reads. I'm stunned that fans don't want a Baker deal done ASAP. Earlier deal means cheaper deal. More money left to keep everyone around him. No distractions. Doesn't drag out and get ugly like Dax did. Only reason you wouldn't want it done is that you don't truly believe in him.
Oh,
Okay.
had quite the discourse over this.
There's a lot in this tweet. There's
Yep.
so much in this tweet. It's like it was confusing to me because I get what he's saying. Like I understand like you can only get 150 characters in a tweet. Like I understand, but it's like, what is he like? It's going from Baker. It's Baker in the money, obviously. And then he throws Dak in there, which here's the thing, because I'm going to let you start because we're going to be on the complete opposite sides here. Spoiler alert for anybody watching. All right, so the cap's changing. This is what I want to know, because if I'm in the mind of Andrew Berry, and this is just how I think about stuff, the cap is changing. Yep. So Dak's contract is like not irrelevant to me because that's obviously a good benchmark, but it's like the cap is changing, so quarterbacks are going to get paid more. Yeah. Out of the argument is, I think the main argument here is that you have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield. I'm setting the stage here. Those are the three guys that need to get paid.
Three AFC quarterbacks.
Yes.
All the same draft class.
Yes. And Anthony Lima's talking about Dak's contract, which I don't know how Dak's contract gets ugly. I mean, maybe I understand what he's saying. Like they had some discourse between, the front organization, the front office, and him, but that deal got done post injury, so that wasn't really as ugly. I didn't think that deal was that ugly. I think they honestly did a good job there. And here's the thing, we're playing 17 games this year, so if I'm the general manager, I got to take into account cap space increase, and I got to take into account 17 games. If you're playing it, then you're not getting, you should have more numbers this year. It's only one game, but it's like you could have 5 touchdowns in the week 17 or whatever, the last game, the 17th game of the year. It's Absolutely. Like I'm adjusting everyone's numbers to 16 games, seasons, and however they want to, look at that. But it's like, just because the cap's going up doesn't mean that somebody should get paid more, in my opinion. But I want to hear how you feel, in person across, as close to in person as we get, but not over typing.
Yeah. So over typing is such a hard thing to convey a lot of times. Obviously, a lot of the things that we say are hard to like convey in those messages. And like, depending on what time of the day it is, like what situations we're in and everything. Like I sent you that during work time. So obviously I was in my lunch break, but yeah. So the Dak situation I think he's referring to is they franchise tagged him the year before. And so obviously you pay a whole lot of money. You pay top 5 quarterback money overall. And so obviously there was a lot of conversation. Are they going to do it again? Are they going to figure out the situation? So he was playing underneath the franchise tag last year before he got hurt. Then they played Andy Dalton, which they realized, hey, maybe if we didn't play Andy Dalton in a year where our division sucks, like it was pretty bad. You had the Washington football team with no quarterback.
Very bad. That division was very bad.
Ending up making it to the playoffs. So very much so. If Dak's healthy, that team's making the playoffs. I wholeheartedly believe that. The reason why I think the Dak contract is brought up is because of the fact that Dak has, I think, led that team to the playoffs twice and hasn't really produced a lot of wins in the playoff section. And also, he did just get hurt when they made that contract. So obviously, very, very much a weird situation there. I think the problem with comparing it to Baker, Lamar, and Josh Allen is that Lamar already previously won the MVP award. So people know the caliber of his play. Josh Allen just had the best season, had an Aaron Rodgers-esque season, I would compare it to in terms of numbers and everything, where he just really boomed. And then Baker's the odd man out where, he's had 2 productive seasons and then 1 really bad season. I think everyone can, and I think for the most part, everyone can agree on that, dependent on, how you view the stats. I think he's been efficiently good. But the big part about Lima's tweet that I very much vibe with is like, if you do the deal now, you get him for less, which is obviously something that you would argue could always be done no matter how well he does. He should always value the team that's around him more than what the contract number should be. But the problem with waiting is, okay, well, Lamar Jackson, what if he has a significantly awful year? Josh Allen, what if he has a significantly awful year? And Baker Mayfield has, let's just say, a previous Josh Allen year. Well, now you're thinking, okay, Baker should definitely be the person that gets the bigger of the 3 contracts. Now, obviously, if he does other things, like he goes into the playoffs, he gets you to that AFC championship game. That's another thing to take into consideration of, okay, he's done it twice now where he's gotten you to play the, proverbial best team in the league in the playoffs and put up a pretty good game for the most part. It's just hard to be like, let's wait this out and see if he's really not the deal. Because the part of what I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the part of what I think your argument has been is that Baker is probably the least valuable, the least deserving of a contract that is saying you are a franchise player here and you deserve to be paid over Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, Wyatt Teller, all these other people, and even compare it to Myles Garrett's contract, which is already done, was, the year before him, the first overall pick. So there's just a lot to consider. And I think if you wait that extra season, it just makes it muddier.
I think just because the comparison is so apparent, truly, I believe that the Browns aren't actually in the worst scenario when it comes to these 3 quarterbacks. Looking at it, the more and more I think about it, I truly do think the Ravens are in the stickiest situation just because of play style. Because, outside of Michael Vick, who, that we're talking about a totally different era of football, you haven't really seen a quarterback like Lamar Jackson get to the point where you could pay him huge money. Robert Griffin III didn't make it there. Cam Newton, I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head how much, how big some of his contracts were, but he was the MVP, I believe, one season. Yeah. So, and, he was a leader of his team, but he's really not that comparable to Lamar. Yeah. As far as Lamar has played so far. But it's like, do you really extend Lamar Jackson big money when he could probably have a career-ending injury on any play? I mean, that's really anyone in the NFL, obviously. But it's like, if the amount of times he uses his legs, I feel like that's the toughest person to compensate just because he has won the MVP. Yeah. And how he plays. So it's like, good luck with that. I'd rather have the Baker situation than have, as far as paying one of them. Would I rather have Baker over Lamar as a quarterback? I don't know. That's a tough decision, truthfully. It really depends how you look at it. But as far as paying them, I'd rather be in our situation. But here's my thing. All right, so reading right off the tweet, no distractions. There's not going to be distractions anyway. You're just saying that to say that. Will there be? Is there a chance? I honestly, small chance. Of course that there might be some.
It's not like he's holding out. It's not like he's making it seem like I'm going to hold out.
They've all already said, all 4 of these guys who need extensions have already said that it doesn't matter when it gets done, if it gets done, if it doesn't get done. So no distractions. That's bait, 100% bait. Dak, I'm just going to I understand that with the franchise tag. I'm kind of going to put that, on the back burner. But here's the thing. Earlier deal means cheaper deal. More money left to keep everyone around him. That's not true. I think that's my problem. Not that he's the least deserving, because from last year, 100%, Baker is the least deserving if you're looking at stats. Now, here's my
I'd argue Denzel Ward, but
no. Sorry, I'm talking about Lamar, Josh
Allen. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm talking about out of the 3 quarterbacks, Baker's probably the least deserving. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. And this kind of goes in with only reason you wouldn't want it done is you don't truly believe in him. So if you pay him this year, let's just say we gave him 4 years, $160 million. Let's just say we gave him that.
And we should if you want to post this one too, Jeff, you should show the graphic of what I think it was a PFF tweet.
Yeah,
Where
I'll
they
put the
had
PFF up there, which I
Josh
don't know where they
Allen.
get those numbers from.
Right.
But it's like that's interesting. Yeah, I'll throw a PFF graphic up there of Baker, Lamar, and Josh Allen all getting like 4 years in between 160 and 170
Yep.
million extension. So here's the thing: if you pay him this year, and he's not, and let's just say we pay him this year. Here's what could happen if we pay him this summer. You're gonna have a situation that I think it gets muddier this year, besides the fact that it's done. I think that there's too many eyes looking at to get it done, and there's too much about the money, which I'm the one who doesn't want to overpay him. But at the end of the day, if we pay him appropriately, then I don't care. Here's the thing. If he has a stellar year this year, if he has 40 touchdowns and 5 interceptions and we go to the AFC Championship or we go to the Super Bowl, we win it all, then you pay the guy. It's not that hard. I could live with paying a guy that is probably, who's either in the AFC Championship or he's in the Super Bowl and he's probably an MVP candidate. What's wrong with paying that guy? That's what I want to know. If he's not very good this year, if he has another year where he's lesser talent than Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, then you pay him less.
Yeah.
I think the Browns are in the driver's seat here. Let Baltimore go and pay Lamar. Let the Bills go and pay Josh Allen. And then whoop-de-doo, we'll wait another year. And let's just say Allen gets 4 years, 170, and Baker outplays him this year. Then we'll just pay him. But if he has a sophomore type year with all these weapons, he goes 25 touchdowns and 25 picks, he ain't getting 160.
Right.
Then you could probably get him for cheap. And then you let them pay Josh Allen. If Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson's worth it, I don't understand why we're so fixated on the money. You can't say the cap's going up and then be like, oh, we're so fixated on the money. But if you give him 170 this year, if you give him 170 now and he goes 25 touchdowns, 25 picks, then I'm pissed off.
Right.
Of course.
So it's weird because, again, I don't know where PFF gets that graphic about how much they're going to get paid. However, I think it's definitely interesting if you look at those 3 teams. The Browns are very much in cap hell as of right now. They're not, and when I say cap hell, I should definitely mention that the Saints were 6 feet under what cap hell was last year, where they had to do so much to get out of not being able to do anything in free agency to just be a playable team. And this is without Drew Brees right now. So,
and are you like familiar with like how the cap's like increasing, like working? I'm not 100% sure.
So there's a new TV deal that happens, and it happens every couple of years. That's why the bump in the cap happens. So I don't know what the specific number is. However, I have seen the projections that the Browns are 10 million under right now.
Okay.
So that would mean that players,
which is a lot.
Yeah, it means we wouldn't be able to sign free agents at this point. Now that's because you still have the Baker, Denzel, and Chubb fifth-year deals, which account for that.
Oh, I have another thing to mention to you quickly at the end, but keep going.
Yeah, but so the problem with the Baker, and we talked slightly about Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, their contracts. Tom Brady did what has made him a 6-time Super Bowl champion. And what will probably likely, depending on how this season goes, like another Super Bowl appearance at the very least. He cut his contract from what it was a huge deal for Tampa Bay to be able to retain all of his players. Now that's what I think Baker should do. Is that what Baker's going to do? I don't know. I have no idea how involved the actual players are in a lot of these initial deals being signed. Because when I see a player be like, all right, I'll take a cut a year after or 2 years after, it's like, okay, why didn't you just do this to start with? I think a lot of it's just like the agent and the team. And I feel like the agent tells the player, hey, we're going to try to get you this much, whatever. And they're just like, okay, sounds good. And that's that. But the problem with all of these contracts being up is that you want to retain the most amount of talent you can with a lot of these guys that we have. So I don't expect Jadeveon Clowney to be here next year. I expect us to first round, second round next year have a pick that's at the end or something like that.
Yep.
There's a lot of replaceable pieces here that are getting paid big time money that will shed at the end of next year. However, you don't want to lose the people that you consider to be your franchise players. And so obviously Myles Garrett got his deal done because he's a generational talent at DN. He's doing things that are absurd. However, you start talking about positions like cornerback with Denzel Ward, running back with Nick Chubb, and quarterback with Baker Mayfield. Well, all right, put those in a list. What's the most important out of the three of those? Quarterback. What's the second most important? Cornerback. All right. Nick Chubb's at the worst position possible. However, he's probably the best out of the three of those players at his position.
Yes.
However, does it make sense for you to take the best position or the most value position and get rid of that player that has at least put in 2 years worth of work that has been solid and has gotten you to a playoff appearance compared to a position that is easily replaceable by draft or free agent? And obviously we have Kareem Hunt, who, he's working off of smaller deals now. I don't know what will happen this upcoming offseason, but you could end up getting Kareem Hunt for less and letting go of Nick Chubb. But again, a lot of this plays out with, all right, how many of these players are going to take the cap and be like, take the cap into consideration and be like, all right, I'll take a smaller paycheck. I think, to be fair, Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb are two dudes that I could definitely see taking less money for the team to be able to retain players.
Yes.
And I'm not making the argument that Baker should be paid more than Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen right now. However, I would just like to make the statement of, and I would like a lot of comments on this particular conversation because I've always brought this up with Jeff, and it's something that you can't, it's all hypotheticals. It's all hypotheticals. And it's a burden and it's a curse. And I hate trying to like always go back to it. But for me, the situation has always been the biggest hindrance on a lot of careers. And so for Baker Mayfield to come into a team that was 0-16, 1-15 the past 2 years and be able to, he played mediocre he played not mediocre. He broke a rookie touchdown record with playing less games than the person previously ahead of that. However, the team was 6-7 when he was a starter. So he didn't do fantastic. He didn't make the team a playoff team his first year. However, neither did Josh Allen and neither did technically Lamar Jackson. He was there when the team was doing good, which the Ravens, phenomenal team, haven't had any coaching overturn, haven't had any front office overturn. Bills, they're slightly underneath the Ravens, or they slightly were under the Ravens for the longest time. But they didn't have any overturn when Josh Allen wasn't the starting quarterback. And so, he's had a great situation. Lamar's had an even better situation. And Baker's had the worst out of the three. And I think he's made do with what's been there. And obviously we can all go back and say, hey, his fucking offensive roster last year was stacked. Why didn't he have better numbers? Mm-hmm. He did play in a couple games that were just absolute windstorms and had a lot of absolute just like downpours where if Nick Chubb was there, I'm sure Nick Chubb would have been, rushing the ball a lot more than what we did. But I think Baker Mayfield has done the best with what he has had. And I think this year is the biggest year of evaluation for Baker.
Absolutely.
In terms of, listen, there's no more making the excuse. I understand this better than anyone. There's no more making the excuse of, hey, Baker, you have the same head coach now. You have the same offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And for the second straight year, you'll have an entire offense that has not changed whatsoever and was a top 5 offense, I think, and top 5, top 10 offense when they could get rolling. And so if you don't put up, if you're not, first of all, if you're the reason that the team loses games, that's a huge mark. If you're the reason the team can't get back into games, that's a big mark. If you're not putting up phenomenal numbers, if you're not putting up top 10 quarterback numbers, there's a lot of things that are going to need to be talked about. I have all the like hype and praise for Baker Mayfield there is. I think there's a lot of things he does better than a lot of different quarterbacks that are getting paid and that are considered better than him. And so this is his make or break year. And I'm interested. I don't think that the deal should get done because in my eyes, I want Baker Mayfield to go out there and make the argument for, hey, out of these 3 quarterbacks, for sure, I should be the highest paid. Do I want him to end up getting that deal? I would like him to just take a cut, to be honest with you. But I'd like for him to go out and prove that he should be the best paid out of the 3 of them. We'll see a lot of that this year, and we'll see win column, playoff column, all that stuff will come into consideration, and stats as well.
Everybody wants, a team-friendly deal. And I think that that's, of course, to be expected. But it's like, even that point right there, there's no reason to pay him now. That's what I'm going to keep coming back to. Everybody's fixated on the money, and everybody's fixated on the timetable as far as the media, the fans. You don't hear this you don't hear Andrew Berry talking about, we need to get this done. You don't even hear Baker Mayfield's agent saying we need to get it done. He just thinks it might, be getting done soon. Right. But it's like, especially for the argument that a lot of people, take to Baker Mayfield. He hasn't been in the same system. Okay, if you want me to agree with that, then you can't have me agree that we should pay him now. Right. Because let's just say he takes a step back from this year, from last year into this year. Let's just say his season last year ends up being better than this upcoming season. Then you're going to pay the guy. Well, I mean, you're either going to pay him, and then your argument of he's hasn't had the same system blows up, or you just keep going. Then you have to throw that whole argument out of the window and say, well, he's been in the system. This is the second year he's been in the system, and he's played worse this year. That's my thing. I don't have a problem paying the guy if he's worth it. And here's the thing that's going to really upset everybody. Why are we expecting him to get extended at all? I don't expect anybody to get extended. I don't expect anybody to be a foolproof lock. Honestly, you see it inside of our own division. Let's just say he 25 touchdowns, 25 interceptions this year. And we just, we're in the playoffs or whatever. And we have, similar playoff performances we did this previous year. And he comes in, and there's problems with the contract. He wants 165 million for having similar numbers to when he was a sophomore. Okay, that's fine. If he wants to be a problem, I mean, we're not going to pay him for money for numbers like that. You see it with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't care about Antonio Brown being a child, and they don't care about Le'Veon Bell being a child, and they're fine. They lost those guys, and hey, look, they've had winning records every year since. Congrats to them. But am I insinuating that that's going to happen? No, but I'm just saying, if he goes out there and underperforms what we know he can perform at, then that's going to have to be taken into account. Like you said, this is the biggest year of evaluation for him. I don't see the pros to pay him this year.
Yeah.
Outweighing the cons. I really don't. I think that it makes less sense to pay him this year if you really want to give him a true and accurate contract. If you want to actually, let him prove his worth. If he goes out there and has an MVP type caliber season, pay him, and then we'll live with the results. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think it makes more sense for him to have the best caliber team around him, both sides of the ball, because that makes him look better.
Yeah. And obviously you can point to Tom Brady with that being the number one, like look
Absolutely.
at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now and all that. The point of, paying him now, I don't know that I made it clear in our text messages, and that might be my fault. I wasn't for like paying him more than Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, because I obviously don't think that he's done anything to prove that. However, I think it does a lot of things, and maybe this is where Lima messed up in his tweet, where he shouldn't have said distractions. I think it proves a lot of it would be the exact opposite. It would prove a lot more if they got the deal done now of how they feel about Baker and how it like translates to how the team feels about Baker in terms of, all right, this is the guy that you're going to have to rock with. This is the team that a lot of people are picking to be in the AFC North Championship team, or AFC North AFC Championship game. And you're rocking with a guy who you think is your franchise quarterback. And I have all the faith in the world, because as of right now, he hasn't missed a game. I don't think he will miss a game.
Hopefully.
If he gets us to the AFC Championship game, and this is not me saying he's going to be the sole reason we get to that game.
Right.
However, if you watch the past 2 playoff games that he appeared in, which were the only 2 he appeared in, he played very well. He played very, very well. Obviously, in the Steelers game, really didn't have to do a lot, but he did well. And the Kansas City game, I think he did really, really well. I think he played spectacularly. I just think that the rest of the team was kind of, there were a few bumps in the road with Rashard Higgins, losing a touchdown and a big gain out of him. Obviously, the defense just letting a second string quarterback kind of make moves on us like Patrick Mahomes. So a lot of things to take into consideration. But again, I think the deal, if it got done now, I think would put a lot of ease in the minds of people that have doubts. Obviously, if you're on the side of Jeff, you think, all right, I'm cautious because of that second year. I definitely need to see an improvement here. I definitely need to see a reason to pay this dude franchise quarterback money and have faith in him moving forward. Because if not, he has a second year again, then you have to go and move on from him, and you have to go and take a quarterback in the draft or find a guy that you can trade for or, find in free agency. So I just think that getting the deal done now is definitely something that, and Jeff left the recording, which is not great, but just like that, I think the Browns should get the deal done. I think it makes Baker happy. I think it makes the Browns happy. I think his teammates happy. A lot of these guys love Baker. I think he's got, the team behind him for the most part, the fan base behind him for the most part. And, if Jeff were here, we'll have to see what he wants to do about editing this in or not. But, I think he wants to see Baker succeed as well. I think he wants to see Baker succeed. He doesn't want anyone to fail on this team because obviously, why would you want that? None of us want that. And so I think Jeff would not mind, being wrong or being on the side of, hey, I'm skeptical of Baker Mayfield. But if he proves me wrong, he will be the first person to admit it to you all that, hey, I was wrong or I was skeptical, and Baker Mayfield is the guy. We should pay him. He said it multiple times in this podcast. So with that being said, everyone, didn't expect Jeff to cut out here. However, we will be communicating back and forth, and we will get this video out to you depending on how it is. We'll see. But thank you all for watching. Please leave a comment down below about the topics we talked about today. Obviously, Colin Sexton and the Cavs having the number 3 pick is a big topic right now. The whole Baker Mayfield contract talk is a big talk for now till, next offseason. So we really do want to hear your comments. We really do want to know what you guys think. And obviously, if you subscribe, you like, you comment, we'll engage back with you and we'll hear your thoughts and we'll make thoughts about them and we'll get back to you. So with that being said, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.